So I'm not gonna lie. In a world where we have gender swap remakes, it's nice to have something kind of original. I think this is the best female-led movie in a while. I'm Flash, and this is my review of Fighting with My Family. Fighting with My Family was written and directed by Stephen Merchant. While the credits were rolling in the beginning, I had to figure out who Stephen Merchant was. I knew the name, I just couldn't remember who it was. Yep, I know exactly what you're thinking. How does a guy who is 7 seasons into The Office not know who Stephen Merchant is? Turns out that he's also in Logan, and he also voices one of the characters in Portal 2. Who knew? The movie follows Soraya Knight. She comes from a family that is obsessed with wrestling. She likes wrestling herself, but it's more something she was dragged into. She's then given the opportunity of a lifetime by being chosen by the WWE to wrestle, but not before competing against several other people to try out. If you're a wrestling fan, you know how this movie turns out, but that's definitely not going to affect your enjoyment of the movie. I saw it with a buddy of mine, and he knew what parts were historical and what parts were more Hollywood. Let's get this out of the way. You do not have to be a fan of WWE to like this movie. I haven't been a fan since I was a teenager, and I liked the movie. I really liked Florence Pugh? Florence Puff? How do you pronounce her name? Let's call her Florence Pugh. From now on, I'm going to be referring to her by her actual character name, which is Paige. I really dug her performance in this movie. I liked her interactions with her family, I liked her interactions with her brother, I liked her interactions with The Rock. She's great. There are some post-credit scenes worth staying for, so make sure you stay after the movie. Also worth noting that Dwayne Johnson's cameos are both brief and they're funny. His humor is a little predictable, but it's still pretty funny. Personally, I feel that whenever The Rock is in a movie, it's just a recipe for success. There really aren't too many Dwayne Johnson films that are bad. Maybe The Tooth Fairy? I don't know, I've never seen it before. I just heard it was terrible. He definitely had a rough patch in the 2000s, but he definitely made me enjoy Journey to the Mysterious Islands, a movie I did not want to see whatsoever. I was dragged to see, and I surprisingly enjoyed it. And say what you want about Justin Lin, but I feel like The Rock was the one to revitalize the Fast and the Furious franchise. One thing Dwayne says in the movie is, don't worry about being the next me. Be the first you. And that's some solid advice. Don't you hate it when you have someone performing something and they just come across as an impersonator of someone else? That's actually something that I'm working on myself with this channel. As I said in my introductory video, I have lots of inspiration. I love people like Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman and a lot of the other YouTubers out there. I could easily try to be like one of them, but I'm working on creating my own personal style. The next part of what I want to talk about does contain some mild spoilers. This is not going to ruin the film for you by any means, but if you want to go in completely clean, you might want to skip this section. About halfway through this movie, Paige is about halfway through her tryouts, and she's observed who's strong, who's maybe not so strong. She's got an eye for a competition. So she approaches a couple of the girls who she thinks they're just competing to just look beautiful. And she just completely stereotypes them to their face. Mind you, she's not doing it in a way that she thinks is condescending. She's just trying to have conversation with them. Come to find out that these girls have legitimate and heartfelt reasons for wanting to compete and enter into the WWE. So, of course, that comes across as a big shock to Paige. Not too much longer into the movie, Paige and these girls are about to wrestle with each other for the first time on stage. During this time, the girls take opportunity to completely stereotype Paige, and they embarrass her in public. This reminds me of a saying that you probably know. And this is paraphrasing. Don't judge people, because in the same way that you judge people, it's going to come right back to you. Now this brings up an important question. Have you ever judged anyone based on how they acted? Did it ever come back to bite you? I certainly have. The approach that Paige could have taken in order to avoid that would have been to just get to know the person. For those of you who have been in those situations, if you could change time and do it all over again, what would you do differently? Comment below. And that is an end spoiler warning. So as I said in the beginning of the video, this is probably one of the best female-driven movies that I've seen in a while. For one, there's not a role swap. I'm not completely against role swaps. Incredibles 2 last year did role swaps very well. To me, it illustrated how important both men's and women's roles in society are. I would also call Fighting With My Family original, although it is based on a true story. It's about a girl giving it all she's got to achieve victory for both her and her family. It's not a movie about making men out to be complete idiots while beating you over the head with the message that women are strong. Women are strong, so I don't think it's necessary to beat people over the head with that message. Paige has struggles along the way. She puts blood, sweat, and tears into what she does. And her struggles along the way is what makes her relatable and very likable. I am going to say that this movie is solid. And since Dwayne Johnson is in here, you could say the movie is rock solid. Oh, I'm gonna hear it from my girlfriend. Anyway, this movie is definitely worth the watch. You're going to have a great time at the theater, and you're going to leave the theater feeling good. If you liked this review and you want to see more, be sure to check out my Avengers Infinity War review. Next on my movie list is Captain Marvel, so I'll be watching that and let you know my thoughts. Until then, subscribe, ring the bell, tune in next time, and I will be back in a flash.